Hello everybody, welcome back to my stream. Where we basically do SharePoint development. The last time we met, I was working on provisioning assets, and we're going to continue to do that. So let me go ahead and bring that up. I know the issue that I had the last time was it was creating I was having an issue where I think I was having a problem with the race condition where the lists were being created, but didn't exist yet, which is obviously problematic. Which is a little bit odd because technically the list should be created. Because the way we have them listed is we have the lists. This list is being created first, and then this second list. And the lookup column is actually the second column, which is the one that's going to be dependent on that list, which is a list ID. So I'm not entirely sure why. So it's creating the list. Let me think. I think what we're gonna have to do is we have to read this insure list. This is insure list function. I think the problem is here. So what it's doing is it's getting the SP object, getting the fields. The question begins to come up with the idea of this is create list, pick of list exists, create list, ensure field exists, getting the fields for a specific list, but ensure field exists is being called where? On the fields area, where we're passing the list title and the field that we want to show. Not to show, but to work on rather. And so therein lies our problem. So if I go into here, we're saying list does not exist in this SharePoint site. The question is, what is the, I mean, it's not really having a, doesn't really have a list name. It just says list blank. Where was the error at? This one right here. Response. Yeah, somehow it's getting a blank. Doesn't quite make much sense. I guess we can try to provision again and see what comes of it. If I click on I'm going to click on provision assets. So let me go down here a little bit. I'm going to click on provision assets. Here's the issue. So it goes and creates the list. And then we get the list. We have the name under title. FAQ topics. Good. And it checks to see if the FAQ list exists. It doesn't. So then it creates the list, which is FAQ list. And then it goes to the fields. These are all the fields that it gets. And then we have a blank for the list title, which I'm assuming this is where it gets the fields. Because we're here. You can see this is the fields, which is this property here. And then it tries to get the list by the title, but it says the title is empty by that point. Question is why? Because here's list name. There's user fields. Then we have field exists. If not field exists, we can just say, oh, here's the problem. The first one, I get it now. A field object is lookup. This needs to be it doesn't exist. It would have to be list name. If the list ID does not exist in the property, then it would have to be list name. And then that should eliminate that error. Okay. So that should definitely fix the problem that we're having. Now let's go clean it up. We go here. The columns weren't created. So now we go to contents, delete this list, and we delete this list as well. Now go to columns. And the columns were never created. Now we refresh this web part again, the page. We click on provisioning assets. Shouldn't have any issues. The columns should be here. They are. If we go to contents, we have our FAQ list with our topics. So let's go to topics first. This one should only have a title. And then the FAQ list, we have the parent and the answer. I wonder if parent did what I needed it to do. Yes, figured it out. So what we basically figured out is how to be able to create a lookup field and enforce cascade delete programmatically. Essentially what we did is to this ensure field is we're going to basically say if the field contains the list name in the list ID. And here's what I mean by that. If we look at the app list schema, this one has a list ID, but this one does not. And that's why I was failing, because it was saying, wait a minute, there's no such thing. Because it was saying originally, if you recall, I had an empty string here instead of the list name. But now what I'm saying is if it doesn't have a list ID, It means it's a regular field, so we can just go based on the list name to populate that list object. Now, it's not a good idea to do that because obviously we're querying the server to retrieve a list object that we don't really need. So we need to say this list is used down here as well. I'm trying to think, this list, where is it needed? Is it needed anywhere outside? It's not. So there's no point in what I'm trying to say is if I look for list, this object, it's only utilized here, here, but it's not utilized anywhere below here. As you can see, we're using a list name here. And so we technically don't need we can technically get rid of this here, put it here, get rid of this here. We don't even need to do this at all. And that should be better because now we only do that when it's a lookup. Otherwise, we just add the field XML as is. Okay. Well, let's test it again. We can delete the list. Oh, it says what? What does it say? Cannot delete this list. Oh, because it's in a recycle bin? Okay, so let's go to the recycle bin and empty it out. All right, recycle bin is empty. All right, so we can now delete the list. Oh, there's a relationship. Let's delete topics. Let's go to topics. No, not topics, rather. Let's go to list. Go to list settings. And first we have to get rid of this column from here. Okay, now that it's deleted, we should be able to delete the list. And we should be able to delete this list as well. Now, go to site settings, site columns, and let's get rid of these two columns. Now, the other issue is that provisioning assets is not triggering the property right here. This checkbox is not getting checked. So that's the next issue. So we go to sources. in the Webpart again, if we go to provisioning API, not for this Webpart right here, there should be a constructor toggle provisioned that's supposed to set its provision to true. So this technically should be checked, but it's not happening, and I need to figure out why. Even though toggle provision is passed into here, you can see here toggle provision after this, and that's not occurring. And of course I need to figure out why. If I had to guess, I think it's because I need to redeploy it. We go here and we have to do clean. We have to clean it. Clean, build. Lady, no. Sorry, my dog is destroying something. Taking its time. While that's going on, gotta go open the app catalog. Come on. Oh my god, this is so slow. Usually not this slow. What is the error? Unable to find entry point, async bundle. Let me try this again. Clean, build. Nope, still have an issue with no localized files found under root directory. Locale.js. They have web parts. Web parts. BQ web part. I think this has to do with what I noticed the last time. The LOC was here and it's not supposed to be here. It's supposed to be under Webpart LOC. Somehow I must have dragged this into the wrong space. That's how it's supposed to be. So now let's do clean. build. And now we can package it. All right, now that the package is complete, we'll deploy it. We go to File Explorer, place it, and then what we deploy this, and hopefully that fixes our issue with that property updating after that the assets are provisioned. We go to site let's refresh this first. Okay, we refresh. Oh, it's gonna error because we don't have it running. Let's make it run by going to start. Oh, and that'll get rid of that error. App. Where is it? Here it is. It's deployed, ready to go. Okay, so it looks like everything's good. We refresh it. We can close the toolbox. Look at our properties. This should be checked once provisioning assets completes. Let's go to a PQ list. Columns did not get created. Great. Duplicate field parent ID was found, but I just fixed this. Contents, delete, what? Box. In the settings for it, clear the network tab. The target list of the lookup field is not valid. Preview. Target list of the lookup field is not valid. I must have changed something here that I messed up on. It was on the provisioning API. The field exists. Create field XML field object. I think I know what the problem is. Because the problem is that field object for FAQ list fields, create field as XML. FAQ list, this has title. It's missing something. Because it was working fine before. Let me bring that back. Let's go back in here. Refresh this. Delete the list. Because it was working the way it was before. I have to try to figure out why. I mean, it doesn't technically hurt to have that one extra call in there. It's just my slight OCD complex that makes me not want to do that. What I'm trying to say is if you look at the code, you first get the object that brings the context. Basically, you ever hear politicians talk about context like them? I was taken out of context. The object SP is the context to what we're working on. And then once we have the object to put us in context of that one site, or it brings the context for the SharePoint object, we then go and get the fields for the list. So every list has a predefined set of fields. Even if you just created it, it has like 80 something fields in there. Okay. And then once we get the fields, anything that SharePoint creates, like I said, is 80 something fields. It's either going to be hidden or it's going to be immutable, meaning it cannot be deleted. It cannot be modified. So there has a property called can be deleted, and it's going to equal true if it's made by the user. If it's not made by the user, it's going to say false, and hidden is going to say true. Okay, but anything that's not hidden was created by the user, and anything that can be deleted was created by the user, which in essence is what our user fields are. Then we check the user fields to see if the internal name of the field is equal to the static name of the field object. If we look at the field object, remember these fields are already existing in SharePoint. We're getting these fields and we're comparing. Does the field exist? Okay, this is going to be a Boolean field. And it's going to go look at the internal name of the field as it exists in SharePoint, and it's going to compare it to the static name. The static name is this, answer, or parent ID. So it's going to check it exists by returning true or false, by checking the internal name of the fields that are in the SharePoint site to the static name from our app-lib schema. If it does not exist, because it's going to return true if it's there, if it does not exist, then we're going to get the list that we're working on. Now, obviously, if it's not a lookup field, this is a lookup field, so it's going to have list ID. This is a note field, not going to have list ID. So here we're saying, go ahead and get the list right here by the list ID provided by the field object. Obviously, the first one's not going to have that. It's just going to be note and answer. So it's going to use the list name that we're providing to it on the call. The reason why that's irrelevant is because it's not needed for anything other than lookup. That's why I was saying we don't really need to make this call. And I was trying to avoid making that call unless we're certain that we're using a lookup field. But when I moved that, it broke. And I'll prove it right now. I'm going to delete this lookup field next. If I delete this, now we're going to go to the recycle bin, clear it out, empty the recycle bin. Now we go back to contents. We shouldn't have any lists. We don't have any of the columns. All right, now let's follow the logic. When we click this button here, you're going to see a total of 4 calls occurring. One to check if the list exists, one to check if the field exists, and one to create the field, and then one to add it to the list. So a total of 4 per list. Technically, the first one wouldn't have so it'd be a total of 6 because the first list doesn't have any fields. What I mean by that is if you look at the first list, which is FAQ topic, you see how fields is empty. It doesn't have anything there. The logic tells us it's not going to try to create fields. So it never goes in to try to create any fields. Then we get to the FAQ list, and then that one says, you know what, you need a field called note, a note type field that's called answer, and you'll need a lookup field called parent ID. So what I'm trying to, again, figure out is why this part works. When again, we don't need this for that field. So that's why I was trying to avoid this call. This is making a call to the server on the cloud. And I don't need it to do that. I'm gonna have to be right back. My dog is just misbehaving. I gotta take her outside. I'll be right back. Sorry about that. So as I was saying, I was trying to figure out and basically say, I don't need this all right here. Because as I mentioned, I don't need I see why I needed it now. I do need it for the first iteration, meaning when I add it to the web, I do need this parameter. That's why I was failing. I just saw it, this call right here. Yeah, because see, what happens is when we add it to the root web in the fields, we're passing this without the list ID. It's going to say, wait a minute, the list ID. And obviously the list ID is going to be the list name. And that's going to be a big no-no. You can't do that. So that's why this is working, and we do need this call. So this should work. Let me refresh it again. Oh, I think I might be getting sick. I don't know why it's giving me an uncaught time error. Okay, so what I'm looking for next is for this to be triggered. If I click on provisioning assets, and it just errored out again. Right here. Target list of the lookup field is not valid. Any answers being added. Let's go look at parent ID. It is a lookup, but it does not have a list associated with it. Let me delete that one. Refresh this again. What am I missing? Makes no sense at all. I'm going to we have title answer but no parent ID. Good. This create field as XML works fine. Parent ID. Then the second one does not. So this one works fine, which is this call. Then it says if lookup. Let me expand this a bit more. So here's the first one. Let's copy this value. Let's examine the two. And then this one, copy value. The only difference is the relationship delete behavior is on this one, not the first one. It literally worked a few minutes ago. It's just beyond me why it doesn't work now. Wait a minute. List ID? There is no list ID. There's a list. Isn't it supposed to have a list ID? Because it creates it right here, which is kind of a bit odd considering we don't have it here. We go to side columns and in parent ID, it's going to be a broken lookup field. Yeah, there's no list association. And the bizarre thing is that we look at the ID 75BF. If we go to site contents, we're supposed to be using the topics list 75DF. Oh, wait a minute. This is incorrect. Definitely the last few digits, but it's not the whole set. And then FAQ list. Yeah, this is wrong. This is why it's complaining. Because we're supposed to be getting the topic list. That's why it's messing up. We go here. List equals, oh wait, p.web list.get by item. FAQ topics. Log this. Look at the console. Clear this up. ID. It's supposed to be this. This is the ID. Let's put the ID here. Yeah, this is wrong. Where could I be getting this ID from? Let's go look at the code. List ID. That's why it's breaking. The ID is incorrect. Somewhere along the line, I'm getting the ID incorrect. Ensure field is happening on this loop. Because I am pulling this ID is FAQ topics. That is weird. You can very clearly see, even if I was to put, even if I go here and I retrieve it this way by putting this like this. Here's the ID, 8209. Oh, here's what's weird though, because oh, well, that's the problem. I just noticed that that's different. If I don't put select ID, you can see here's ID. $820. What is this ID? That is weird. Because if I don't put specifically the parameter ID, it's actually returning the correct value. That is crazy. You can see that 8294, 8209, 8209, 8209 B4. Yeah, you can see that that's the problem, which is crazy bizarre that it's doing that, because it's supposed to be this value, which is right here. This one right here versus that one up there. I've never seen anything like that. Because all I'm telling it is to return the ID. And it's returning something with a letter C something. I should be returning this ID. And instead it's returning this. Which that shouldn't be the case. And what's weird, let me remove this parameter. I'm going to remove that and watch. If we look at the ID here, Echo 7, Foxtrot, Foxtrot. Which if we go look at topics, let's go look at topics. So, settings. It should be 5D and watch. Run that. You can see that it's not. It's doing Echo 7. It's supposed to be doing that one. But when I remove select ID, it does return the correct one. Echo 7 Foxtrot Foxtrot. Good. 7. This is weird. I have never seen that before. Even the edit link is returning this weird number with Charlie Alpha, and it's supposed to be 5 Delta. And here, if you notice, 5 Delta. 5 Delta. I don't know why that would be happening. So technically, all that adding the select parameter is supposed to do is say only return, instead of all these properties, return that single property. I mean, it doesn't really matter, right? I mean, in the end of the day, I usually put that select field. So this should work this way. Get rid of that select. It shouldn't really matter, but let's go ahead and delete it, and this should work now. But I was just trying to make it more efficient to just return the parameter that I need instead of the entire object. Much to my surprise, that was the issue. And you see no errors. Now if I go to site fields, I think I should probably open a bug to the PNP folks so they can be aware of that. But now you can see that my list is properly identified on here. And then if I go to my list, if I go to contents, and I go to my topics, actually my FAQ list, and just look up, and then cascade delete. So everything's working again. That's bizarre. The things that you learned by just doing some troubleshooting. I never in my wildest imagination would I have ever thought that having the field ID be identified and exclusively selected would cause a discrepancy in the ID for the list. That is definitely new to me. So yeah, things you know. Obviously, the next thing would be to figure out why it is checked. So it did go through with the check mark. For some reason, this did not switch. And the reason being is because is provisioned is not a... It's not in a use effect. So essentially this component never re-renders. So what we need to do for it to re-render is make this have is provisioned as well. That's bizarre. Because I put its provision in there and its provision is changing. Is it changing? Let's find out. Go to components. Right here, FAQ Webpart. This provision is set still false. It looks like his provision is not changing. And I think it's because this right here it's gotta have a way to it's gotta have an on change. Checkbox. This dot properties. Oh, I don't have it as a property. Old value, new value, property path. On property pane field changed. Huh. So it has to be part of my properties. So if I look for this dot property, you can see it right here. That's the problem is. And then this dot properties, and we no longer need I don't know if we need it in the constructor or not. I'm gonna go ahead and comment it out. Also, I don't even think I need this either, because now that I think about it, set configuration is part of this properties. Set configuration. But then this is it because I have to set it to be public? I wonder. Yeah, it wasn't public. And let's make this public as well. I don't think I need this anymore. I'm curious if I would need that or not. I don't think I would. I wonder if it works now. This provision undefined. Okay, so interesting. Oh wait, this dot properties is provisioned. And then this one, this dot, where's my configuration? Right here. Okay, and let's go look at and troubleshoot the component. You can see its provision, it's still undefined. Yeah, I'm gonna have to figure it out why it's not setting that up. I wonder if I have this anywhere else. Here. It's not anywhere. Yeah, I'll have to leave that for the next time we meet. We did quite a bit of progress. We were able to deploy the assets. Now the next thing that we need to do is essentially be able to toggle this so that this component can change. So I usually like to stream for an hour. I'm a little bit over, but like I said, we'll definitely tackle that next time, which is toggling this so that we can essentially use the Webpart going forward. And yeah, we'll do that next time. Thanks for coding with me, and I'll see you next time. Peace.